We're here with Marc Rubinstein of Reid, Rubinstein and Bogatz, and Marc's a law firm, and Marc's a fellow who's had a very long storied history in the gaming industry, and if anybody understands this industry inside and out and understands a lot of the legal and policy implications of decisions, it's Marc. And so, you know, with that preface, Marc, I'm just going to kind of let you have the canvas and fill it in. Tell us the kinds of things that you have found that the folks here who are trying to develop in the emerging U.S. sports betting industry, the kinds of things they should understand, the kinds of things maybe they don't understand?
Well, first of all, thank you for the introduction. I think what they're going to find out is that it's much more of a patchwork quilt than maybe they anticipated. And maybe they're used to that in places like Europe, but certainly the United States. First of all, there are jurisdictions that are still in the process of enacting their laws. And once they do that, they're going to have to adopt their regulations. And all those regulations are going to be different. And once they figure that out, then they're going to confront the issue of the Wire Act, which, regardless of what happens to the Wire Act, it's always applied to sports wagering. And one of the anomalies is that even a multi-jurisdictional company like an MGM or Caesars is not going to be able to combine their wagers from jurisdiction to jurisdiction, and therefore be able to pool their risk from state to state. So you would think intuitively a company like that could, you know, take all their wagers and somehow balance their lines and, compromise their risk or shift their risk and protect themselves against large wagers, but they won't be able to. The other thing they're going to have to figure out is that beyond the statutes and the regulations and the Wire Act, at its basic core, every wager is a contract. And so they're also going to have to dig in and focus on their wagering rules and adopt wagering rules, and not only adopt them, but make sure they're simple and easy to understand and prominently displayed, which is also going to be a trick where there's mobile gaming. The US, unlike a lot of other places in the world, is a very litigious place, and you're going to have customers that are going to have disputes, and if the wagering rules aren't clearly displayed, aren't easily understood, you're going to have a whole industry of lawyers coming after you with betting disputes. Great for people like myself who could always use the work, but not good for casinos, not good for regulators, not good for the industry. So I think these are things that folks maybe hadn't thought about yet that need to consider.
So if you're one of these fellows landing on the shores of the United States of America and looking at this vast opportunity, what's the first piece of advice you would give them?
Well, obviously I'm prejudiced, but find a good gaming lawyer, get some advice.
We have your business card right here.
Yeah, thanks. No, but there are a lot of good practitioners, but be careful, be thoughtful. Understand that laws are different from state to state. Understand that in most states, they're not trying to keep you out. They're just trying to keep you to the law. The rule of law is important. Doing things on the up and up, being transparent, making sure your taxes are paid, making sure customers are treated, or bettors are treated fairly. Making sure that wagers are clearly understood, making sure that that gaming is done responsibly, that people who have a proclivity to perhaps game too much have resources available to them to assist them with their troubles. All those things need to be taken into consideration. Make sure you have the right people on your compliance team, and an adequate compliance team. Don't just give lip service to compliance, and understand that's part of the fabric, at least in America, of the gaming system.
we've got so many, we've got 50 states, each gets to set their own rules. We've got tribes, many of whom are going to set their own rules or try. We've got competing interests of all kinds. You've got states where the lotteries would like to be the predominant players in sports bettings, and the casinos are saying, no, let us do it. How do you see this, and of course we talked about the Wire Act, you talked about litigation. How do you see the development of sports betting rolling out in the US?
Well, so far it looks like most of it's going to be casino-centric, and that, to me, makes the most sense, not just because that's where I come from, but because I think strict regulation is the best way to start, at least. If you give it to the lotteries, historically lotteries have not been highly regulated, and there's no reason for them to be highly regulated. The lottery game itself is not a complicated game, and so it doesn't require, and it's usually a single provider, so it doesn't really require strict regulation. Whereas sports wagering and these sports wagering platforms and the variety of games and the in-game wagering and the amount of money that is wagered, all the variables require fairly extensive regulation. So it makes sense that it's casino-centric. That's where the regulatory expertise lies. So I think that's where it should be, at least for now, at least for the immediate future. I'd be reticent to support a federal regime to regulate, just because there hasn't been one historically. There's really no need to create one.
One of the things that you had mentioned earlier is you can take a company like a Caesars, a multi-jurisdictional company, a large company, and assume that they're going to pool their bets, they're going to have liquidity, they're going to have reasonable lines, but yet you got the balkanization, and we don't know yet how the Wire Act is going to play out.
Right.
Doesn't there at some point have to be a legislative fix that says, now wait a minute, we did not intend for the Wire Act to be all these things? And you've got a lot of states now that are going to push back, because every state lottery is going to say, now wait a minute, not us. And to have a really sensible, uniform fix, doesn't it have to be federal?
Well, in a perfect world, the Wire Act would be either thrown out or amended. The Wire Act's intent was meant to prohibit illegal gambling, but there's just an anomaly in the way the Wire Act is drafted, that it still prohibits interstate sharing of information assisting in the placing of wagers, even where they are legal wagers. And that's the anomaly that prevents the sharing of legal wagering information from one state to another, even where those wagers are legal. So that's the problem of the liquidity pools, and being able to merge those pools comes in. So there needs to either be a tweak to the Wire Act or an AG opinion or DOJ opinion that says, well, the intent wasn't meant to reach this kind of legal wagering from state to state, so we're just not going to enforce the Wire Act against that.
Any other issues out there that you think that don't get enough attention?
I'm sure there are. It's still this industry is still in its infancy outside of the state of Nevada, and inside the state of Nevada, it's been a pretty simple, non-competitive environment. Nevada hasn't really had many controversies on the race and sports side of life. Nevada's been fairly instrumental in detecting betting patterns that have led to prosecutions in college sports. I do think that sifting out bad actors on the officiating and player population is going to be a challenge. With the proliferation of gambling nationwide, that's going to be something that we're going to need to watch. But from a gambling law point of view, no, there's nothing that really comes to mind yet. It's more of a wait and see and react. It would be great to be proactive, but It's just too soon, in my opinion.
Mark, that's a good overview. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Frank.